All right, here I am. I'm going to do the thing that you probably all kind of thought I was going to do, but maybe thought that I wasn't going to do, but actually you knew I was going to do it. Russ recently went on The Breakfast Club yesterday or the day before or something, and I gave it a watch. 46 minutes of nonstop Russ talk. Before we even get into this, I just want to say, head on over to nojumper.com, the greatest online store in the entire world. And also follow me and No Jumper on Instagram and Twitter at Adam22 and at No Jumper. Let's talk about this. So first off, I want to get things clear. Throughout my life, I've used Russ as a meme. And I don't want to necessarily apologize, but I do want to acknowledge that the tweets that I made, the jokes that I made at Russ's expense, that was a different version of me. That was a younger, sillier Adam22. And, you know, I learned a lot from the J. Cole experience because I had some J. Cole tweets from back in the day, sort of joking on J. Cole. And then J. Cole pulled up on me and we had a conversation and I realized I respected him a lot and I kind of felt like an idiot. And in this case with Russ, I think that the situation is a little bit more cloudy. But I don't want to get into the habit of treating rappers that I don't necessarily like or listen to as jokes because I think it's kind of silly. It's not productive. It's not really ultimately going to get me where I want to go. In my career, I want to be known for helping out new and upcoming artists. And I don't want to be known as a person who just uses someone like Russ as a punchline. That being said, earlier today I searched my Twitter and I found some of my old Russ tweets and they're really fucking funny. So before we even get into this, I'm just going to bring some of these up. I'm not going to delete them either. Also, this was my, well, no, I'll show that next. This is, we're going to have to keep an eye on the dates. December 2017, Merry Christmas to everyone besides Russ. 16,000 retweets, 40,000 likes. The problem with talking shit about Russ is that it does so well, and he's got to be on to that too, is that, you know, that's a lot more retweets than I get on average. Russ is probably sitting at home like, huh, I could post a picture of a bowl of cereal and get 16,000 retweets. You suck. Fair enough, but there's one. Here's another one. This is even more recent. November, oh no, about a year ago. J. Cole used to get a lot of hate on the timeline, then Russ came around. Not even a joke. 4,500 retweets. Russ is at home thinking, I could eat a bowl of cereal and get 4,500 retweets. Next one. Please check your children's candy carefully. I just heard about some sicko getting out Russ CDs. I'm not gonna lie, I completely stole this joke from somebody else. I forget what they were saying, but it was like they were some name of some video game or something. Still makes me laugh. But no more. What's this? I don't even know what this one is. Russ out here going hard to convince everyone he's the biggest douchebag on planet Earth. Russ blasts the recording industry for rewarding connections and fuck shit over talent. Let me tell you what the industry awards, Russ said, added a dramatic pause. The industry rewards connections and fuck shit. That's what it rewards. If it rewards talent, feel me, I would be the biggest artist in the entire fucking world. Okay, so that's just a little bit of a reminder of, you know, Russ's prerogative, the way that Russ goes through life. This is the bad one. What would you rather your child get into, Xanax or Russ? 68% chose Xanax. I'm sorry, Russ. This is really fucked up, but also it's pretty funny, you gotta admit. God, what does it say about my audience that they were just so down to just like feed into the meme here? Ugh, I feel terrible. But I also just want to say that if you really take a look at my tweets about Russ, you'll also find me hanging out with my friend Russ back in 2009, before this Russ existed or before I knew about him. So for the record, this is a different Russ that did an OD gap to wall to pull back. And also this is a different Adam22 that wrote faded life to end the tweet. But this guy Russ did smoke a lot of weed, so that's why I thought faded life was a good thing to say. And also this is how New York I was at the time, is that I said OD gap to wall. Ugh. Anyway, let's talk about it. So basically in this Russ interview, he really tries to identify why people don't fuck with him. That's one of the main things that sort of comes up right away. And in his opinion, people don't fuck with him because of the fact that he is all about self-sufficiency, making his own beats, engineering his own stuff, doing his own thing. Now, I know what you're probably thinking at home. Like, does that make any sense? Why would people be mad at you for engineering and mixing your own stuff? It's because it's not true. The reason why, what Russ is alluding to The reason that people took issue with what he was saying is because he basically went on this tirade that said that, you know, a lot of producers suck. Maybe I should pull up the exact article so I'm not completely misquoting him. But as you remember, Metro Boomin took aim at Russ. Yeah, look at this. Let's give Fader some burn. Why not? Metro Boomin, Russ is whack in spirit. Young Metro stood up for his fellow producers in an online debacle. Metro Boomin has criticized Russ after he said rap music is suffering due to producers making whack shit. Look at this massive Joe Budden ad that just ended up on here. Shout out to Spotify. I wish I was getting paid for that. Maybe I should get ad block. Anyway, that's what he's alluding to. A lot of producers, I believe like Southside was one of them and stuff. Basically, a lot of producers were really pissed off about some of the stuff that Russ has said about the artistry involved in hip hop. And I think that those conversations are a lot more nuanced than Russ just saying, oh, I do everything myself, and people take issue with that. That's really not accurate. Anyway, the other thing that he really hones in on is saying that people don't like him because he doesn't like drugs or because he takes a stand against drugs. Now, for the record, Russ, when I hear you talk about drugs during this Breakfast Club interview, I think your perspective is very, very valid. Like, I completely agree that pills and lean and stuff, it's poison, it's genocide, it's killing our youth. The problem is, like, from somebody in my perspective, and I assume you're in somewhat of a similar perspective because you definitely probably are around, you know, younger artists, people who do drugs. Like, you know, from my perspective, I know a lot of people that do drugs, even though I personally don't do anything besides smoke weed, have a few shots, you know, maybe a little bump ski at the end of the night, but help me get some sleep. The issue is that there's a way to do it. There's a way to go about making your opinion heard. And in a situation like, you know, the opiate epidemic, the current drug wave that has taken has taken rap over, basically. Let's just be completely honest about it. It's been a huge, huge change in terms of how people project their drug usage in music. And the thing is that a lot of people are just addicted to drugs. So you want to be careful with how you sort of present your opinions on a lot of this stuff because, you know, people are dying from this stuff. People are addicted to this stuff. People want to stop doing drugs that physically cannot stop doing drugs because they're addicted. I have a lot of friends like that. And the reason why I wouldn't just go to them and say, like, yo, bro, you're being a piece of shit. You need to stop drinking lean is because I understand that the power it has over them. I get it. And I want to be sensitive to that. So I think that anytime you're going to make an anti-drug statement in the public eye, you sort of owe it to yourself and to the people around you and to the people who want to consume your message. You sort of owe it to them to go into that conversation from a position of compassion and understanding where they're coming from. And now Russ's perspective, which is a good perspective, and he's absolutely right about this, and I don't want to get it twisted and act like I disagree with him about everything, but his perspective is basically, if you're using drugs as part of your image, you know, making merchandise with drugs on it, or if you're, you know, talking about it in songs and everything, then you're an asshole because you're promoting this cancerous behavior. And I think that's a really good point. I totally am on board with that. I think we need more accountability in terms of stuff like that, in terms of, like, you know, if you're a 17-year-old rapper and you want to put out, you know, a shirt with a pint of lean on it, it's like, I get it. But there probably should be somebody on your team or somebody at the label that just sees that and isn't willing to just totally put money ahead of morals. And I know that, like, people are probably thinking right away, like, Adam, you've put lean or, you know, pill abuse or whatever in vlogs and everything, so you're basically doing exactly the same thing. Oh, okay, you're right. But I mean, I'm not making like a fucking Xanax t-shirt either. People, you know how many times people have come there and been like, let's make this shirt, it's gonna have a bunch of Xanax on it. And I was like, I don't think that that's a good idea. It's a fine line. Because let's face it, if you are a person who's involved in the music industry at all and you're pushing any kind of artist's work, there's a very good chance that they're talking about drugs to some extent. And you can't just remove yourself from working with artists because some of those artists are talking about drugs. Anyway, this might be a little bit of a tangent, but the problem with the way that Russ has kind of gone about depicting his beliefs on drug use might be sort of epitomized by this t-shirt. How much Zanzoline do you have to do before you realize you're a fucking loser? Now, given all the people in hip hop that we've lost over the past couple of years due to stuff like Zanzaline or, causes that are in general related to drug abuse. This seems like probably the most tone deaf way imaginable of making a statement. It's also just so badly written. How much Zans? It should be how many Zans and how much lean, which I realize that's the confusing part. That's the weird part. English is a hard language, but I don't know. I think that when you look at something like this, it's like, as much as Russ wants to explain, oh, everybody took it the wrong way, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, you were kind of a dick for wearing this shirt in this way. Like, it was just in such bad taste, and I still can't look at this and think it was a good idea, even though I do agree with the overall message. Okay, but let's talk this is another good example. Smoke Perp disses Russ over anti-drug Twitter rant. What did he actually say? Aside from the t-shirt, abusing Xanax and other pills, drugs, etc. in private because you're depressed and other mental issues is one thing, still not good. Constantly recording yourself doing drugs and putting up pics and videos of doing it is when you start choosing to publicly glorify it and make it an image. I do agree with this message for the most part. The problem and the thing that made Smoke Perp tweak out about it was just the fact that he said it right after Peep died. And it really just played into this image that he already had, where he's just sort of this elitist dude who's just relentlessly hating on these young, misguided kids who can't stop doing drugs. And I get it. I get that you're at a place in your life where you're not abusing drugs, and that's fucking awesome, because I am too. But I think that you really need to pick your shots, and you need to be tactical with the way that you discuss death and you talk about addiction. And Russ has made quite a few choices in his life that I guess have sort of pissed people off as a result of maybe not being touchy enough when handling those issues. And that's all right. That's not the main thing that I think people dislike about Russ. I think it's just his overall tone, to be honest. Earlier this morning, I got a text from somebody who, because of a tweet that I had yesterday about this interview, which, by the way, I'll talk about this one. I posted this yesterday. I saw 60 seconds of the Russ interview on The Breakfast Club, and he managed to shame Charlamagne for not knowing about a booking agent. Well, a lot of people pointed out that this was sort of a silly or singular reading of an interview, which I get that. Look, my follow-up was 90% of listeners are only vaguely aware of what a booking agent is, and Russ thinks he's going to win points by acting elitist towards Charlamagne, not a recording artist or involved in booking artists for shows for something like that. This dude really is a dick. Okay. I mean, I still kind of stand by this, although the only way that I saw this before I saw the full interview was in this little trailer for it. It was this little 60-second thing. I would agree that once I saw the full interview, this is not the most interesting thing to tweet about from the interview. So I will acknowledge that. But I still think it's a good point, because it's just this moment where you just kind of catch the Russ dickhead vibe that pisses people off so much, where he just sort of takes this thing like a booking agent. Most people don't know about booking agents. Now, I agree that Charlamagne is sort of in the music industry, so it makes sense for him to know about a booking agent. And Charlamagne has a kind of nice track record of not knowing about significant things in pop culture they should know about, such as Little Skies and Take A. But, it's just, you got to pick your spots. And I just don't think that, being shocked at Charlamagne for not knowing about that during the interview was really a good look. But again, it was a tiny percentage of the podcast, or of the Breakfast Club interview as a whole. So this is another part, though, that I had trouble with in this interview, is that at one point he compares the way that people make fun of him and other rappers on social media to the way that people make fun of kids in high school, and basically says that all of those people are just as bad as the kids in high school who would make fun of a girl until she killed herself. Now, I just don't buy into this logic. I'm a grown man. I exist in the public sphere. I'm very aware that the things I say can have ramifications, both in the things that people respond on Twitter saying, people can make YouTube videos about me, people can do whatever the fuck they want. I get death threats, I get comments that say I'm a terrible person, people threatening to do every bad thing under the sun, and it doesn't really get to me, because I've been doing this for a long time, and I'm just not sensitive enough to give a fuck. You could write a comment right now. Just say, hey, Adam, kill yourself. And I'm going to read that comment. And I would say I'd laugh at it, but I'm not even going to laugh at it. I'm just not even going to fucking notice, because who cares? I only really notice the positive comments. If I read a positive comment, it's going to I'll probably be thinking about it an hour later, to be honest, at least sometimes. If I read a negative comment, it would have to be masterfully written. Like, it would have to be some really good shit to get me to care. But again, Russ, you're a grown man, and you've gone out into the world and you've made all this music and you've gained this gigantic fan base. And just like the way you talk about getting shit on by the game, by fans, it just doesn't really resonate with me. I just don't really understand how you could still be so sensitive to that. And your opinion is like, oh, you still need to be sensitive. You still need to be open in order to create great art. That sounds like an excuse to me. I don't really buy into that either. There's a lot of great art. Like Jay-Z's one of the greatest artists. Do you think Jay-Z's worried when he sees like a fucking tweet that's making fun of him? I don't think so. And granted, Jay-Z probably doesn't get anywhere near as much hate as Russ or me. Well, I don't know about that. There's all kinds of people talking shit. Just because there's no good reason to talk shit on Jay-Z at this moment, I'm sure there's still plenty of people talking shit about him. There's still probably plenty of like Nas fans that are still like in Jay-Z's mentions like, yo, Takeover sucked. Mental health is real, but I don't buy into this argument that he put forth about where, people who enter the public sphere are going to just all start killing themselves and it'll be the fans' fault. That just doesn't really add up to me. If you want to enter this fucking world, I mean, this is the same way I feel about a lot of the fucking social justice warrior type people that act like it's like this great disservice that this terrible thing, this act of violence has been done to them as soon as somebody responds to them or has an opinion about them. It's just not a good way to go through life, just thinking that nobody else can have an opinion about you. So Russ also, he puts forth this argument that the people who made jokes about Mac Miller's album release are somehow at fault for Mac Miller abusing drugs and losing his life. This is an insane argument. Criticism is normal. A critic is a normal job. Like, you could go work for the New York Times and be a critic. You could probably be a critic for No Jumper one day. Give me a year. We'll be hiring critics. It's possible. You ever see that cartoon, The Critic? Yeah, I love that show. But all I'm saying is that, like, you can't, as an artist, you can't take this attitude where anybody who says anything negative about you is this terrible person. You can't just act like people having opinions about you is not valid. It just doesn't work for me. I just refuse to accept this as like an actual way of going through life. I think you need to accept and own the fact that people are going to criticize you, especially, Russ, no offense, especially as someone who, I mean, I'm guessing that his time spent in hip-hop stardom is not the first time that someone has informed Russ that he has a little bit of a caustic or a controversial personality. I'm sure that, like, in high school, he was a little bit controversial as well, if he was as open with sharing his opinions, Oh, yeah, anyway, I forgot. I was going to say this earlier. Someone texted me earlier and said that before Russ was popping, that their YouTube channel was supposed to premiere a Russ video and that they were 15 minutes late in premiering it. And Russ contacted them and said, fuck you, you're not premiering my video. Which is like, that really fits into this whole like narrative that people have come up with for him. My favorite thing though, my main thing that really got to me about Russ early on was just the finding out that he turned down Complex on an interview once he became popular because Complex didn't respond to his emails back before he was popular. I mean, the worldview that you would have to think that is so fucking crazy, because you realize that Complex gets probably thousands of emails a day. Like, we get hundreds or maybe thousands of emails a day. I can only imagine how many Complex gets. But for Russ then to burn a bridge with Complex in his adult career stage because they didn't respond to his emails when he had no following or a much smaller following, I mean, it just really shows a way of life that, or a way of thinking about life that is just really it's not going to work. It's not sustainable. But anyway, what he was saying about how the fans are in a lot of ways like responsible for someone like Mac Miller, ultimately, maybe he's taking a step away from music and, sort of retreating into his personal life. It seems so hypocritical because moments after he says that, he's basically alluding to the idea that him and his crew beat up one of these younger SoundCloud rappers at a show. I mean, so again, his perspective is that people need to be respectful of artists and that artists need to, have their creativity sort of fostered by the fans and everything. And then moments later, he's telling you how him and his crew apparently like beat up some 19-year-old kid at a rap show. Now, nobody has come out and said who it was. And I actually think that a bunch of my friends know exactly what happened, but they're not telling me because they are actually scared that I would expose it in a venue like this, which is a fair opinion. I am a little bit of a big mouth. If I know about something good, it can be kind of hard for me to keep my tongue held down. So, I don't know. Maybe they'll tell me after this. Maybe we'll just find out soon. I mean, Young Bands did come out and say, for the record, Smoke Purp and Young Bands were the two artists that were discussed as the people that Russ might have allegedly committed a violent act against. Young Bands has come out and said it wasn't him. Smoke Purp, as far as I know, has not said anything yet. But it'll be very interesting to see what is said. I don't know. I don't know if I really had that much else to say about this. Like, he spent a huge percentage of the interview just sort of rambling, and they just sort of allowed it. But I would like to send an invite. Russ, you want to come through, do an interview? Let me know. We can shut the internet down. He's probably not going to want to do it because he's going to be like, no, you're just going to do it because you want clout or whatever. Yeah, I mean, I would appreciate the clout. That'd be cool. But I do think that it would be good for Russ to come in and do an interview with someone who is closer to the criticisms that have been levied against him. Charlemagne, Angela, Angela's not even there, right? Envy. They don't really care. You've never done anything to piss them off. Let me do a podcast. Although, actually, realistically, it's like I don't have that much against Russ. I just have thought that some of the things he did were cringy, and then I used him as a meme a little bit back in the day. But again, no more of that. No more rapper shaming. Anyway, let me know what you think of this video. Let me know your thoughts if you saw the Russ Breakfast Club interview. And also, I would just like to say that the Breakfast Club has 2.6 million subscribers. No Jumper has 2.15. We're getting pretty close to 2.2. I promise I won't say anything when we actually pass them because it's pretty petty, but I'm ready for it. No Jumper. Signing out. Adam22. Head on over to nojumper.com and follow our Spotify playlist. Link is in the description. Bang.